You are not ugly. You are dangerous. You are creepy. It is not a male loneliness epidemic at this point. It is a male consequence epidemic. The loneliness epidemic is natural selection.
So earlier this week, a female Doomer YouTuber I used to watch crashed out hard and alienated her mostly male audience by coming out as a full-blown misandrist. Shelby exists and makes stuff. She's basically the female 32-year-old equivalent of the neat stay-at-home son archetype. Except these days, she's not really a neat anymore. She's almost like a professional artist who sells her honestly well-done paintings to her audience without ever leaving her room in her parents' house. And the irony? This time, she painted all men in broad strokes and with a toxic brush, generalizing us with the worst possible stereotypes and dumping all her personal baggage on lonely, involuntarily celibate guys. The video backfired hard. It lost her nearly 1,000 subs, got dislike bombed, and she quietly set it to members only. Luckily, I saw that coming, and I saved the worst parts. Let's go through this together because, honestly, if I were you, I wouldn't want to go through this mess alone.
You are not ugly. I repeat, you are not ugly. To women, you are dangerous. You are creepy. It is not a male loneliness epidemic at this point. It is a male consequence epidemic.
Who is she even talking to here? Who is you? If it's me, thanks, Shelby. I know I'm not ugly. That's not the problem. The problem is that I'm 5'3.5". I'm smaller and weaker than most women. So by definition, I'm not dangerous unless I have a weapon, which would make me only about as dangerous as the average woman with that same weapon. But let's be real, she's talking about all men here. And this is where the problem begins. Assuming all lonely men are dangerous and creepy, there's no nuance here whatsoever, no room for variation. Guys like me are unrepresented. Sure, manlets like me are capable of being creepy, but not necessarily dangerous. Chad could leer at a woman all through class, then compliment her on her body, and most women would blush and go weak in the knees. The ugly short kid steals a glance for 3 seconds too long. He gets reported to the school, threatened with suspension, and brutally dominated and intimidated by her tall male orbiter friend. Remember, guys, being lonely means you're creepy, and being ugly means you're creepy. But the same behavior from a tall, attractive guy? Oh, that's confidence. Now, I've listened to true horror stories on YouTube for a decade, so I do understand how women feel about these things. If anything, it should remind you the importance of the right to bear arms, or even just carry pepper spray. That's what I do. Yet you believe that those rights should be taken away. It's a self-destructive ideology. And you're trivializing your position by claiming all lonely men are dangerous. A lot of us have been traumatized by women like I was in middle school. I'll link that video in the description. I realize you have trauma and I feel for you, but it's also traumatizing to have your female therapist label you as dangerous in your medical records when you're not. And to say the male loneliness epidemic is a consequence epidemic, that is the definition of victim blaming. I'll get more into why as we go on, but it's very clear that what matters most when it comes to attracting women are the things outside of our control. Genetic disadvantages are as unchangeable as race, and suboptimal upbringings that lead to stunted growth are often the results of generational poverty. Imagine telling someone of a certain race that the discrimination they experience is a deserved consequence of their own actions. Not very liberal of you, Shelby. The genetically and developmentally disadvantaged experience a lifetime of trauma from bullying and rejection, and our personalities are shaped by this inescapable prejudice and exploitation. Our days are filled with sadistic microaggressions, constantly being dehumanized and reminded of our place in the hierarchy. And since looks, and especially height, are associated with wealth and high social status, this is essentially an extension of the systematic oppression of the lower classes. And you are playing right into it by kicking those who are already down, who did nothing to deserve their lot in life and never even asked to be born. You're blind to your own prejudice and how it colors your perception of our behavior with a clearly negative bias. And this is yet another form of oppression that we face. We're victims of society and you're blaming us for our own fate. Hard to be more cruel than that.
The average man risks getting their feelings hurt when they get rejected by a woman. When a woman says no, we literally risk our lives. Most men have never been followed home, groped, or cornered by someone 3 times their size and strength whose only intention is to fuck you with or without your consent, and it shows.
You know, it seems to me like Shelby doesn't speak for all women here. From what I've seen, there are plenty of women who do enjoy the risk and danger involved with being approached by an unknown male. But there's one little catch. Only if he's 6'3" or taller. You have no idea how many female fantasies I've read online about how hot it is for them to think about how the towering god of a man they're with could easily do anything he wanted with them and they'd be completely helpless to stop it. How such immense power and potential danger from a tall, strong man is a deep carnal desire that most women dream about. To fully submit and surrender to his dominance. How do I understand this so well? Because I'm attracted to the exact same thing in women. Height, broad shoulders, muscles. I want to fully cede control to her powerful frame, to feel defenseless and pathetic next to her. And considering a towering football player can potentially be as physically dangerous as a full-grown bear, how come it's the little guys she sees as the ones to be afraid of? I can understand being afraid of an average size or tall, fat, sub-5 male, but honestly, if the tall guy lost the weight and looks maxed, most women would probably lust after him too, considering how rare tall men are. Can't be too picky about something as unimportant as face. A face can't dominate. A face can't provide or protect in a primal setting. So again, it feels like opposite day when the least imposing men are also somehow viewed as the most dangerous and assumed to be criminals, regardless of how helpless they are to him. And if we leave height out of the equation, loser Maxing said it best. Women are often prejudiced toward unattractive men, misreading facial expressions and body language and seeing danger where there is none. You don't fear him because of something he did, but because of his ugly face and bald head. It's very similar to how white women reacted to black men in the 1960s. I understand you'd rather be safe than sorry, but don't turn around and make sweeping judgments about all unattractive men.
I wish men would suffer in silence like we do, because why do I have to keep hearing about it?
What a cruel, rotten thing to say, Shelby. You want us to suffer? This makes you sound like a malicious sadist who finds joy in the misery of men. And as they say on the 2X chromosomes subreddit, to bask in male tears. How do you feel when men take their own lives? Is that something you cheer about, like many of your peers in that subreddit? I wonder if you have a brother or male cousins that you care about, and if you feel the same way about them.
Most people who make up incel content are caught up on height or looks without ever caring that they make women feel like we are in danger of being SA'd when we are in their presence.
Women have made it abundantly clear by their online comments and real-life reactions to men they aren't attracted to that height is the most important thing for men, followed by looks. So it's not out of pocket to be hung up on it, as you say. As far as Shelby saying those of us who make inkwell content make women feel like they're gonna be SA'd, what does she mean by that? I mean, SA can be as minor as unwanted flirting or as major as a physical attack. And women are known for trying to communicate through hints, which, in case you didn't know, are ableist, because they're nearly impossible for neurodivergent people to pick up on. As far as the risk of physical attack, Shelby, you gotta remember, not all men are the same. Look at me. I'm smaller and weaker than most women. Add to that the fact that I'm only attracted to women who literally tower over me, and it would be literally impossible for me to pose any real physical threat to any woman that I'm attracted to. They could crush me beneath their foot if I so much as disrespect them. And I'm completely helpless to their might. So yeah, not true in my case.
Because men blame women for only going for chads, but then they're over here at 5'7", 50 pounds overweight with receding hairline and latent alcoholism, only hitting up Becky's and Stacy's, doing the exact same thing.
Of course, she has to mention height and baldness, as if that's our fault. Just like Loser Maxing said, the only things she shamed us for that we have any control over are alcoholism and weight. I guess since I happen to be a manlet, I should just know my place at the bottom of the hierarchy, right? And did you know that height has a greater impact on life outcomes like income, happiness, and reproductive success than literally any other demographic characteristic? Baldness and looks also have an impact. Not very liberal of you to belittle an entire group of people for an unchangeable characteristic that's proven to be a permanent disadvantage. Just like with AOC's recent incident, heightism and lookism are clearly the last acceptable forms of prejudice on the left, and the elites want to keep it that way. As far as unattractive men only approaching attractive women, that is far from true. Most of us are too intimidated by attractive women for fear she might have a similar attitude to you. Myself, I could care less how attractive a woman's face is, as long as she's fit and over 5'11". I just need to feel small and vulnerable.
Men are actually not lonely enough. Men will get angry that we have boundaries and standards in our 30s and say we are delusional from learning from our past and the past of our fellow women. And they say that how dare we reject them when we are in our 30s? How dare we reject them if we are sub 5 or whatever that means? It's because we don't feel safe around you for a good reason.
Men aren't lonely enough, eh? Sounds like more sadism if you ask me. You sure you haven't been narcissism maxing, Shelby? I'm detecting some strong dark triad energy from you here so far. You probably do well with a guy who has borderline personality disorder. Unfortunately, the patriarchy mostly diagnoses women with that one, so he'll be tough to find. To be fair, Shelby, you don't seem to be rejecting men for the same reasons as other 30-something women we view as delusional. Your reason seems to be based in some serious trauma and fear, which I hope you can overcome. These delusional women we speak of reject men because they're waiting for that 1% man who's 6'6" and makes $250K per year. And until they find the guy, they just order delivery of top 10% chads from their dating apps who they can never get to commit. Meanwhile, this small group of elite men are cycling through and sharing all the women in town, just using them for gratification and ego building. But you're not doing that, right, Shelby? If you overcame your trauma and fear, is that how you would live your life? As far as men making women feel unsafe goes, if women only wanted guys they felt safe around, then wouldn't they prefer to date short men? But the reality is they want the biggest man who makes them feel safe from other men.
And women want a life that is anything but the one that our grandmothers had, while men want the one that their grandfathers had. They literally romanticize our oppression because tell me why that most women do not want the life that our grandmothers had. We do not want to have 6 kids and get married at 18 because we have no other choice.
We all want the life our grandparents had, Shelby. Come on now. These are boomers we're talking about. They had every opportunity building their lives at the peak of American prosperity. I get what you mean about not wanting to be shoehorned into being a housewife when you want to do more with your life. I get it. Personally, I think being a housewife or house husband could be a great opportunity to get a free living arrangement while having plenty of spare time to start your own business. But if you'd rather be fully independent, I understand. And lastly, I'm involuntarily celibate myself. I grew up with my grandparents and I don't want the same family dynamic we had. I want to be the smaller, more submissive one.
And as soon as women started to have the option to not choose men, this is when men started to roll back our rights.
Roll back our rights. First of all, Shelby, I care about your rights. I can't speak for all men, but I play no part in any attempt by governments to revoke your rights. Not all lonely men want that to happen. We have no power over Supreme Court rulings or the actions of other states. We aren't all radical religious zealots. We're a diverse group of people. I'm agnostic personally. If anything, women baby trap men and refuse to get abortions when they probably should. I don't want children to be born into bad situations.
The truth is, only the top 20% of male animals reproduce, and that's a fact. Yet men blame us instead of accepting their fate. Women choosing not to have children is the next step in human evolution. We are weeding out the violent men with no emotional intelligence.
I'm confused here, Shelby. I believe you about only the top 20% of male mammals mating, but then you say that women are weeding out violence and lack of emotional intelligence. If we're comparing this to reproductive Darwinism and animals, I don't think any of them give a shit about which male was passive or emotionally intelligent. Quite the opposite, actually. They select for physical power, which leads to domination, which is inherently violent. I don't think this next step in human evolution is working at all so far. And personally, I don't really want a woman to carry my child unless she's at least like 6'4", and even then I'll encourage her to get a donor. I don't want my kids to have to suffer with being disadvantaged by their height. Only if we have the time and money to raise them right, and Mommy Dommy demands that her babies have my face.
Men really think that because they are happy, we are happy. They really have no idea that how much they drain us affects our mental health and makes us want to opt out of marriage altogether.
Now you know how men have felt for the last few decades. Marriage is a total mess for men, and the problem's only gotten worse with time. The only positive thing are the tax benefits, and these only benefit the privileged class of beautiful couples who are happy together because they're both highly attractive. It's not fair to single people. Even living together can be risky due to common law marriages in some states. Courts are notoriously hard on men in divorce court and partial to women. It's a trap, so no, not all of us want to get married.
They go to the gym for 1 hour and then come home and watch Andrew Tate for the next 6 hours.
Oh my god, Andrew Tate? His true name is forbidden on TikTok. Myself and most of my viewers aren't fans of grifters who exploit our false hopes of ascension or easy success in life or with women. Or pickup artists who profit off selling us the lie that they somehow hold the secret to being irresistible and that it's our fault if it doesn't work. Especially some privileged tall rich guy and his even taller Chad. Especially when it's some privileged tall rich guy and his even taller Chad brother. Red pill guys are usually genetically gifted. They couldn't possibly understand our plight. To be honest, it seems like you don't know the difference between the capsule that's red and the capsule that's black.
They will literally bash us for having friends and being goal-oriented because they are aimless and all alone.
Again, it hurts to know that you would assume that I bash women for being goal-oriented just because I'm a guy when you don't even know me. Not every chronically single manlet is intimidated by ambitious women. I mean, I am definitely intimidated, but in a masochistic sort of way. I enjoy feeling intimidated by tall women with physical and socioeconomic power. I know this is probably an unpopular opinion with my audience, but I find the idea of a girl boss very hot.
It's always twos who find the audacity to make you feel completely unsafe.
I don't think it's a coincidence that she emphasizes twos being the ones who mainly make her feel unsafe. And I don't believe that unattractive men are more likely to attack women either. This is lookism through and through. It's rooted in understandable fear, but it's not grounded in reality. If you always feel unsafe around men you don't find attractive, then we can't control how you feel. That sounds like a you problem.
We would kindly appreciate it if no men approached us ever again because men don't just want women, they want control over us.
I'll have you know, Shelby, there are a large percentage of lonely men like me who are submissive, and I'm one of them. We don't all want to be in control of you. You say you'd appreciate it if no man ever approached women again. Well, wish granted. And now we would all appreciate if you never complained about being lonely ever again. Maybe just specify that you're asexual and only lonely for friendship. By the way, I haven't approached a woman in years out of fear of encountering someone like you. So congrats. And to other women who want to be approached, women like this are the reason you never get approached. And one day civilization will start to collapse due to declining birth rates, and the economy will contract and spiral, and you won't have enough customers to buy your art anymore.
As a low-achieving loser myself, I am perfectly fine with both male and female losers never reproducing and being eliminated from the gene pool entirely. I'm okay with the fact that I have not been picked. I'm okay with the fact that I probably am not viable for reproduction. I've come to terms with this, and I think the men that are like me need to do the same thing and stop blaming other people.
It's starting to sound like because of your low self-esteem, you've branded yourself as being a romantic reject. As always, stop painting all men under one broad stroke. I'm perfectly fine not reproducing. It would be nice to find a romantic partner, of course, but having kids isn't a requirement. In fact, I think it's for the best that genetically disadvantaged people avoid creating another cycle of suffering by passing on those disadvantages. But if we're being honest, we both know that you've got plenty of male orbiters who are all romantic options for you. You complain about not being chosen while rejecting men left and right. I mean, I get it. You think you're too good for them and can only accept the ideal male. You'd probably reject Prince Charming if he was under 5'9". I think you're upset because one of the many orbiters you've rejected called you out for your hypocrisy. Or maybe he just moved on and you're jonesing for the attention. Personally, I'd be a hypocrite if I judged you for holding out. I mean, I'd date you if you were 5'11 or taller, but I refuse to date any woman shorter than that, so it's not like I'm much different than you. That said, a commenter, Shredded Sub 5, had a unique insight I'd like to share. Another femcel with an army of orbiters. DMs looking like mine when I give away a free car on eBay, and 500 reasons why none of the men that want her are actually viable options because they're not Chad. You gotta wonder what sparked off her decision to make this video. But my theory is that she couldn't handle the hit to her ego of a disgruntled sub-5 orbiter calling her out on her hypocrisy, so she broke down and wrote this 6,000-word manifesto as a way to avoid facing the fact that he was right, and she is a hypocrite. I guarantee you she wouldn't be willing to date a guy under 6 foot, and would probably cheat on a 6-foot guy if she found a guy who was taller. I've been subscribed to Shelby and occasionally watching her videos for like 8 months now, but I stopped watching her as much in the last couple months. I honestly never expected she would spout such thoughtless drivel. She seemed relatable for a long time, but recently she has started to irritate me a bit because her channel, it's been thriving since day one. She makes good money selling her art and getting donations plus ad revenue. She doesn't even realize how much better her life is than most of us. She acts like it's so horrible. But she's lucky as fuck and more successful than I am. She doesn't even recognize how privileged she is, and that if she were male, her channel probably never would have taken off like it did. She doesn't have that much to complain about as far as being a loser goes. I can only hope to be that successful at 32. It feels like her whole down on my luck loser act is no longer attuned to reality. Her life no longer sucks, and she's creating problems that don't exist. It's all just a performance at this point. One that helps attract attention and donations from a mostly lonely male audience. Kind of exploitative, isn't it? But Shelby probably likes the idea of taking revenge on men. It makes sense why her audience turned on her so much after this. I mean, there were far more men watching her than women. Very few women can relate to most of her problems. So her decision to alienate lonely men was definitely an interesting public relations decision. Now, I realize she's mentally ill, so it's bad to dogpile on her, even if she is a total hypocrite. However, I'm also mentally ill, so that makes it okay.
So if a man is like failing at something, he always blames someone else. Typically, not every single time, but there is a huge lack of accountability when it comes to men.
Oh, so I guess women are somehow perfect angels? You know, it's considered emotional abuse to paint yourself as perfect while profiling men as villains before we can even prove ourselves. I don't know about you guys, but it's fucking frightening to me to think that people this disconnected from reality are voting in our elections. My lord. Shelby, I'll say to you what I say to the red pillars. Not everyone who fails at something is at fault. Men aren't superhumans who can do anything we set our minds to. There are factors outside our control, and it's not right to invalidate us and expect us to always blame ourselves.
And let's be honest, the new abortion laws have de-incentivized dating as a woman in a real way.
I don't know what state you're in, Shelby, but if that's true, I sympathize. I understand where you're coming from with that, since you're in no position to mother a child. Hot take, but I think women should have easy access to such services, more for the sake of improving the quality of life for children who are born than anything else rooted in feminism. I mainly care about the well-being of those who are brought into this world without consent. So hopefully you're saving some money now for an interstate road trip, or maybe just getting ready to move.
Why do conservative men go out of their way to pursue liberal women instead of just going for conservative women?
First of all, not every conservative man looks like the extreme Christian pro-Israel moralist you see on Fox News. There are way more moderates than you realize. But the woke extremists all throw us into the same bin with full supporters of the right-wing agenda. And second, I truly, truly wish I could find a woman who shares my values. Not even conservative necessarily, just moderate centrist with views on both sides of the spectrum. But here along the NorCal coast, any female who isn't an extreme, radical, leftist, Antifa, 10th wave feminist SJW is few and far between.
If men wanted a woman that was aligned with their values, that's what they would do. They would choose a woman that's already aligned with their values, but they like the idea of taming the liberal woman.
I'm guessing you live in asswipe Alabama because out here on the trendy West Coast, conservative women are unicorns. Maybe 1 in 50 on Bumble say conservative. Maybe 8 say moderate. Like 90% of them say they won't date a guy without the Bill Gates injection. And all the conservative girls are gorgeous. I don't stand a chance with them. I don't know how it is in other states, but it is brutal here in Cali. Trust me, I don't have the time or energy to care about taming anyone.
If it was about life, SNAP benefits would not be getting cut, and they would still offer abortions. They still offer abortions for disabled babies because this is not about saving lives of every baby. It's about forcing able-bodied workers into existence so that they can work for the elites.
Again, I'm sorry you're stuck in Alabama. I hate California, but I'd rather be here than there. But overall, I fuck with what you're saying here. I talk about that all the time in my content. The elites want to bring as many weak, sickly, disadvantaged children into the world as possible so they can build a helpless, dependent population of submissive serfs to exploit with ease. It's not a life worth living.
The loneliness epidemic is natural selection.
I would agree with you on that, Shelby, but there's one problem. There's nothing natural about the presence of dating or hookup apps and social media enabling women to advertise themselves and collect orbiters like My Little Pony figurines. All while overexposing and desensitizing women to the images and lives of ideal males, who they sometimes get attention from or even hook up with once or twice. All of this overinflates women's egos to an unnatural level.
And female preference is changing. It has changed. We are now preferring emotionally intelligent men, non-violent men, and men who are self-aware and support our reproductive rights.
Personally, I don't think you would turn down a conservative guy if he was 6'6" and had broad shoulders. Almost any woman would make an exception for that. Come on. I know I would. Just admit that political differences are only a deal breaker if the guy is small and unattractive to you. And like I said earlier, it doesn't make sense for women to prefer men who are a foot taller than them while also claiming that you're selecting for less violence. Tall men are built for domination, Shelby.
And if men were less apathetic about working at themselves and became interesting people, they wouldn't be unfuckable.
I'm surprised you're unaware of the age-old trope of the attractive, boring person. It's common knowledge that it's unattractive people who are more often the more interesting or skilled people since they've been forced to adapt and make themselves useful or face complete ostracization. But many of us fail to adapt and we become discouraged because it's a very difficult thing to do.
It's not a mystery. Men don't connect emotionally anymore. When men get together, they usually isolate themselves in a room and watch sports alone and drink beer while the women are doing all of the work.
It sounds like you're picturing Alabama boomers in your head and stamping that onto every man in every generation. To be honest, I don't give a fuck about sports, and I'm pretty sure the majority of involuntarily celibate men don't either. And plus, I don't like worshiping tall, rich jocks who get paid millions for being genetically superior. That's more of a red pill hobby.
But lonely men are such weirdos that we are just afraid of being touched without consent.
While I am definitely a weirdo, you definitely don't have to worry about me touching anyone without consent. And that goes for most other lonely men too. And as for my consent, I'm actually radically the opposite. I want to be essayed by a tall woman with broad shoulders. And there are other inkwells out there like me who dream of being non-conned by a tall, dominant woman.
These men expect us to submit, and to that I say submit to what? Poverty? Abuse? Because that's the reality.
As I said, Shelby, some of us lonely men out there are like me and actually don't want women to submit. We want to submit. And I wouldn't mind getting manhandled either.
Only men can cure the male loneliness epidemic. The ball is in their court. They are experiencing the consequences of their own actions.
How is it my fault that my growth was stunted by chemicals I was exposed to as a child? How is it my fault I stopped growing when I was 12? To tell us that only we can solve our problems is like telling an orphan child that it's his fault no one loves him. This isn't a male epidemic of loneliness. It's a female epidemic of ego. Your blatant victim blaming is really bringing out the dark triad in your aura.
Men say they want traditional women, but they call us gold diggers for only choosing men who are able to provide.
Again, not all of us want traditional women. I exist over here. What's funny is how quickly you contradict yourself. Isn't women only choosing men that are able to provide just another iteration of a traditional relationship? You can't have your cake and eat it too. Don't take advantage of a man for resources only to not provide him the kind of partner you promised to be. That's like breaking a contract.
The system that oppressed us for centuries are finally changing tides and punishing lesser men. Yet they blame us and not the system. They blame our rejection and not the systems that have made them unlayable.
It sounds like you're happy that the system is punishing lesser men. Now that it's doing what you want and punishing middle or lower class men and boys born into a system we had no part in creating, you dump the burden of responsibility for the system onto the people suffering the most from it. It's almost like punishing innocent boys is something you voted for. You can kind of see how this whole woke white male hating culture boys grow up in might lead us to blame people like you for our problems, since women like you pushed for it the most.
Daughters are no longer being raised to be wives and mothers. They are being raised to be productive people in society.
Mothers are the most productive members of society. Without them, a nation crumbles, and bad ones create lives of suffering and pain. And what's with the sudden reverence for productivity? I thought you rejected the 9-to-5 trap and respected those who refuse to participate in society. That's an awfully capitalistic statement you made. Don't let the elites confuse you.
It's kind of funny to me because men want a housewife, but they don't have a house.
You sound comically sheltered and privileged when you say this. The first time I heard it, my blood pressure spiked. It's unbelievably infuriating to have someone like you who had easy success building an online income stream shame men who had no choice but to struggle through poverty and corporate grinds through decades of economic depression only to never be able to afford a home unless we inherit it. If women like you weren't so sheltered, maybe you'd get it.
I have more respect for a homeless man living off grid than I do for a cuck that fell for the 9-to-5 psyop.
There it is, another contradiction. You glorify women being taught to be productive members of society while rejecting the conventional career path. Although I admit you can be productive as an entrepreneur, which seems to be what you're doing. Just don't forget how much of your success was from luck and thirsty men who want to throw you money because they enjoy findom.
I can't tell you how many times that I was just being friendly with someone, not thinking anything of it, only to realize that it was being taken and interpreted as flirting.
Honestly, this happens to me constantly as a man. I feel like a complete buffoon when I make that misjudgment. So I basically always assume women are just being friendly now. Women can be very cruel to us, so most men are like me and just avoid the risk entirely. But occasionally, one of those women actually was flirting, and I had no idea. Again, I'm neurodivergent myself, so maybe y'all should try to make your flirting a little more obvious to us.
It's not in our blood to become wives and mothers, and it's not all men who are able to protect and provide.
But for many women, it is in their blood. Just because you don't like it yourself doesn't mean you should shame women who do. As for men, you're damn right we're not all made to provide. A little manlet bitch like me would have to submit to a dominant partner if I would want any chance in hell of surviving in the Stone Age. I couldn't provide for myself, let alone a woman.
Women want help around the house with cleaning and childcare. Most of them are also working full-time and still expected to do all the house chores in the house.
In situations where this does happen, it's almost always a woman making concessions for a highly attractive man that they never would have made for an average man. Obviously, if she's being financially trapped and this is happening, then yeah, that's terrible. But sometimes women choose that over being with a short guy who's fair to them.
We refuse to be dominated.
Unless it's by Chad, right? If women refuse to be dominated, then why is 50 Shades of Grey so popular? If anything, most of the women out there are more attracted to dominant men. As long as the man is tall with broad shoulders. Having an attractive face helps too, but that's an afterthought.
If men were genetically wired to protect women or their communities, they wouldn't be committing the majority of violent crimes and starting wars and committing every atrocity since human beings came into existence.
I hate to break it to you, but males can be wired to protect women in communities while also being wired to be violent. All you have to do is look at primate communities. They protect their females with their lives, but they also literally rip apart the male members of other tribes and capture their females. The male is wired to be violent so he can protect, but also to take from others for himself if he's the largest, which helps him provide even more for a female.
And a man is not a plan. He can leave you high and dry. He can drain you of all your resources and leave you worse than dead.
At first, I thought she said a man is not a plant, especially since she said we drain her, since plants drain soil of water and nutrients. In reality, women drain men, both figuratively and literally. But no, she actually said a man is not a plan. I think that applies to all genders, to be honest.
Being a stay-at-home mom is a flex and a status symbol. It's not something that's accessible to everyone these days.
Now there's a statement I agree with. Being a stay-at-home mom is absolutely a status symbol. It provides the children of the elite with a much better, healthier upbringing, since their mom has more time to procure homegrown produce and homemade organic meals. Kids from families like that grow up bigger and stronger. Height is a status symbol too.
Men shouldn't be bashed for having feminine traits, and women shouldn't be bashed for having masculine traits.
Again, I agree with this too. I basically am into role reversal. People bash me for it all the time, and yeah, it's wrong to shame someone for breaking the mold, but me, I honestly kind of enjoy being teased and bullied for being a subservient manlet. And I prefer women who have masculine traits. Towering, broad shoulders, V-shaped figure, flat chest, muscles, big hands and feet, wealthy CEO, rich family. I love it.
Men hate OF women. Men hate that women are monetizing their sexuality.
To be fair, most men aren't happy about it, and it's definitely not a good thing for the dating ecosystem. I'm upset with the women who give money to feed that machine of exploitation. It's a massive transfer of wealth and power from men to women. These men are a result of a system designed to keep them single, and they're being taken advantage of. That said, I personally don't judge you for doing it, because if I was a woman, I would milk the shit out of that. I wouldn't even judge my female cousins for doing it. There are a lot of beautiful women in my family. I could have been one of them, and my life would have been amazing.
Incels believe that they are entitled to a woman simply because they exist, and they act in violence when they don't get it.
But do words count as violence this time, Shelby? Y'all have used that term so loosely that it's practically lost all meaning. Videos like this tend to contribute to that collective loss of credibility. Obviously, you guys know I'm not violent at this point. I don't even give a shit about finding a girlfriend anymore. Haven't even bothered trying in like 3 years. All I care about is this YouTube channel.
Men must provide not just financially, but emotionally and physically.
Jesus Christ, is this really how bad most women are? That they literally expect everything from us? We put in all the effort and get nothing in return. Nothing but your presence and apathy. How can you expect young men to provide all that shit for you in an economy like this, Shelby? Dream on. We're all fucked, not just women.
There are no systemic barriers preventing men from going to college. Instead, education is being devalued and being seen as feminine and unmasculine.
Education isn't seen as unmasculine. Young men have had it hammered into them their whole lives that they are the problem with society. Everything is our fault. Boys playing war games with toy guns is seen as toxic. Their energy is psychoanalyzed and medicated as a disorder. And it only gets worse in college. I've had multiple bad experiences being berated and demonized by female leftists for no good reason in college. Those are stories I'll tell in a future video. But on top of it, guys get fewer grants for college. And there's less reason to bother going when you know DEI is going to hold you back from getting hired. The cost outweighs the benefit. And at a certain point when the world is unfairly against you, yet expects everything from you, if you can't escape the wage slavery, you may as well lay down and rot.
They are attracted to us and yet resent our emotions and who we are as people.
I would bet you consider yourself an empath, Shelby. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But it's ironic that you say we resent your emotions. I'm very tolerant of a partner's emotions, as long as I don't feel unappreciated. In my experience, it's women who are intolerant of men's emotions. I once had a woman tell me that she was disgusted that I was grieving my grandma's declining health and said that I was pathetic. And that's not my only experience. It seems women just want robot men who don't have our own emotions. We only exist to tend to theirs. Lucky for you, that's coming out soon. What's funny is that this requirement always slips away when Chad enters the picture.
Gender roles differ significantly across cultures and historical periods, indicating that they are not biologically determined, but socially created.
That doesn't really make sense to me, Shelby, considering our less advanced primate ancestors all have similar male-dominated gender roles. We're not much different from them, and I haven't seen much evidence of gender role-defiant cultures throughout history except maybe one or two. Trust me, I would love that to be more true. I want to defy the fuck out of gender roles, but I don't think such cultures are as common as you think. And by the way, part of defying gender roles means dating shorter men.
When men are asked what they do if they were women for a week, not a single one of them said submit to a man, dress modestly, and care for children for free.
Of course they wouldn't want to do chores if they were only going to be women for 1 week. They'd want to live it up and make the most of it, obviously. Ask them what they'd do if they were women for life, and you might have a different answer. Personally, if I was a woman, yes, I would use my body to grow exponentially on social media and build a business, but I would also enjoy locking down Chad as a trad wife. I could probably pull it off too, especially when you see how I'd look as a female. And I'd probably be well endowed too, considering the family genetics.
Male loneliness epidemic is full of expendable leftover males who fail to become sexually desirable for one reason or the other.
Oh, so we're expendable too? Our lives have no value? I mean, you're basically right, but you don't have to rub it in our face. That's just cruel. What's more cruel is to blame our lack of desirability on us, as if we have any control over our frame, height, or facial structure. You know, those factors are also impacted by poverty and less access to fresh, healthy food, so you're basically victim blaming the disenfranchised lower class and calling us disposable trash. Congratulations, Shelby, you're a capitalist. Obviously, Shelby made a big mistake recording this video. She eroded her credibility and trust. She's got to realize that she's inviting controversy. I had to say something. By the way, I think the main reason she interacted with Raymond and loser maxing is because they're over 6 feet. I expect her to see my channel, see that I'm short, not care how handsome I am, and see me as not even worth 5 seconds of time to listen to or give a morsel of attention. But that's the life of a short guy. You can have a pretty face and still be seen as less than unattractive tall guys. By the way, I know loser maxing said you look like a horse, but it's okay. I like women with long faces and noses. Unfortunately, the horse look only really works if you're tall. And also, we should ask ourselves if Shelby's collecting disability checks here. Because this YouTube channel / art business looks awfully profitable, and I think the income limit is $1,600 a month. Is it really fair for someone with a flourishing online career to also get free taxpayer money while we live lives of poverty with no hope and no future? You slave away in your wage cage while she lives the dream. Please like the video and subscribe if you want more. I also made a similar video analyzing the height shaming event a few weeks ago with Ana Ocasio-Cortez. If you liked this video, you'll love that one. It's very similar. Thanks for watching.